The massive Empire ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It emerged from hyperspace like a dark cloud blocking the sun, its hull gleaming with strange metals unknown to human science. The ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built, stretching 5 kilometers from end to end. Admiral Smith stood on the bridge of the EDF Defender, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. At 60 years old, he had seen his share of conflicts on Earth, but this was different. This was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, and something in his gut told him it wouldn't go well. "They're hailing us, sir," reported Lieutenant Rogers, her fingers hovering over the communications panel. "All frequencies." Smith took a deep breath. "Put them on the main screen." The alien that appeared looked almost human, except for the gray skin and completely black eyes. It wore an elaborate uniform covered in what Smith assumed were military decorations. "I am High Commander Gray of the Galactic Empire." The alien spoke in perfect English, thanks to their universal translators. "Your world has been chosen for integration into our divine empire. Surrender your military forces and submit to imperial rule." Smith had expected this. Every spacefaring race they had secretly observed over the past 50 years had the same attitude, arrogant, convinced of their superiority. "High Commander, I am Admiral James Smith of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with the Empire, but Earth is not interested in surrendering its sovereignty." Gray's expression didn't change, but his voice carried a note of contempt. "You misunderstand. Primitive. This is not a negotiation. The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Resistance would be unfortunate." "High Commander," Smith said carefully, "I strongly advise you to reconsider. Humanity has a long history of warfare. We've spent centuries fighting ourselves, perfecting the art of combat. We don't want war with the Empire, but if forced, we will fight." The bridge crew tensed at these words. They all knew what humanity was capable of. The hidden fleets, the quantum weapons, the AI battle networks, all carefully concealed from alien observation. Gray laughed, the sound harsh and metallic through the translator. "You dare threaten the Empire? Our smallest warship could destroy your largest cities. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. What could you possibly—" "Sir," Lieutenant Rogers interrupted, "multiple Empire ships just dropped out of hyperspace near Mars colony." Smith's face hardened. They hadn't even finished the conversation before launching an attack. "Typical. High Commander Gray, this is your final warning. Withdraw your forces immediately. Watch, primitive, and learn the price of defiance." Gray sneered. The communication cut off. Smith pressed a button on his chair. "All stations. This is not a drill. Implementation of Protocol Omega. Authorization Smith, Alpha 77. Across the solar system, hidden defense systems began powering up. On Mars, massive doors opened in the seemingly empty desert, revealing weapon systems that had been concealed for decades. In the asteroid belt, stealth platforms armed with quantum torpedoes emerged from their hiding places. "Sir," Rogers reported, "Empire ships are charging weapons. They're targeting the Mars colony dome." Smith closed his eyes for a moment. He had tried to warn them. "Send the coded message to all commands. Remember what we are. Remember what we've learned. Show them why humanity survived itself." The first Empire shots struck Mars and passed straight through the colony. The hologram flickered and vanished, revealing a heavily armed fortress beneath. Before the Empire ships could react, the real Mars defense grid opened fire. In orbit around Earth, Smith watched the tactical display as the first battle between humanity and the Galactic Empire began. The Empire ships were more advanced, more powerful, and crewed by warriors from a civilization that had ruled the stars for 10 millennia. But they had never faced humans before. "God help them," Smith whispered as the quantum torpedoes struck their first targets. "We tried to warn them to run." In the vastness of space around Mars, The Empire was about to learn why humanity had survived countless wars, why Earth's nations had finally united, and why the discovery of alien life had led not to celebration, but to preparation. The war had begun, and humanity was ready. High Commander Gray stared at the holographic display in disbelief. 3 of his best warships floated dead in space near Mars, their mighty hulls torn apart by weapons he had never seen before. The primitive humans weren't supposed to have this kind of technology. They weren't supposed to be able to fight back. "Status report," he demanded, his gray skin turning almost white with rage. "Sir, we've lost all contact with the attack fleet," his second-in-command reported. "The human defenses on Mars. They're unlike anything in our records. Our shields couldn't stop their weapons." The massive Empire command ship shook as another quantum torpedo detonated nearby. The humans had hidden their real military bases underground on Mars, using the civilian colony as a holographic cover. It was a level of deception the Empire had never encountered before. Meanwhile, on the Mars Defense Command Center deep underground, Commander Wilson watched the battle unfold through secured video feeds. The Empire ships were running, their formation broken. Their advanced shields meant nothing against Earth's quantum weapons, which simply ignored them by attacking through a different dimension. "All batteries, continue firing," she ordered calmly. "Don't let them regroup. Launch the hunter-killer drones." Swarms of small, AI-controlled spacecraft emerged from hidden hangars across Mars' surface. They were ugly, practical machines, built for war rather than show. The Empire ships, with their gleaming hulls and impressive size, made perfect targets. High Commander Gray watched in horror as the human drones tore into his retreat formation. Empire ships had always been built to fight other large ships, not swarms of small, agile attackers. His weapons couldn't track them effectively, and the humans seemed to note every weakness in Empire ship design. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "we're detecting more human ships approaching from the asteroid belt. They're just appearing out of nowhere. Our sensors couldn't see them at all." Gray slammed his fist on his command chair. "Impossible. No one can hide ships from Empire sensors. No one." But the evidence was right in front of him. Human stealth technology had rendered their ships completely invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. The Empire's mighty fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, was being torn apart by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. Back on Earth, Admiral Smith received the battle reports with grim satisfaction. "Send word to all commands. Operation Thunderbolt is now in effect. Show the Empire why we spent the last 50 years preparing." Across the solar system, hidden human military bases activated. Ships that had been concealed in deep space began to move. The trap that humanity had spent decades preparing was finally closing. On the Empire command ship, Gray received even worse news. "Sir, we're detecting human ships jumping into hyperspace. They're using our own jump points." How did they know their locations? Gray finally understood. The humans hadn't just been sitting in their solar system waiting to be discovered. They had been studying the Empire for years, learning their technology, finding their weaknesses. While the Empire had seen only a primitive race barely reaching into space, humanity had been preparing for this exact moment. "All ships, full retreat," Gray ordered, his voice shaking. "Return to Imperial space immediately. We must warn the High Command." But as his fleet turned to flee, they found human ships waiting at every hyperspace exit point. The Empire's fatal mistake hadn't been attacking Earth. Their mistake had been believing that humanity's warnings were empty threats. Commander Wilson watched from Mars as the Empire fleet scattered, running from the human forces like prey from a predator. "Send a message to all Empire frequencies," she ordered. "Keep it simple. Just say, 'We warned you.'" The battle for Mars was over, but the war was just beginning. Humanity had spent centuries fighting itself, developing weapons and tactics that the Empire, for all its advanced technology, had never imagined. They had tried to warn the Empire to run. Now, They would show them why. 2 weeks after the Battle of Mars, Commander Wilson stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Shadow. Her small fleet of 30 ships hung invisible in space, waiting near one of the Empire's main supply routes. The Empire still hadn't figured out how human ships could hide so completely from their sensors. "Target in sight," reported Lieutenant Adams, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. Empire supply convoy. 5 cargo ships, 2 escort destroyers. Wilson smiled. The Empire never learned. They still moved their ships in the same patterns, used the same routes, followed the same rules. They had been unbeatable for so long that they have forgotten how to adapt. "All ships, weapons free," she ordered. "Remember the plan. Hit hard, hit fast, then vanish." The human fleet appeared from nowhere, their stealth fields dropping just seconds before they opened fire. The Empire escorts didn't even have time to raise their shields before quantum torpedoes tore through their hulls. The cargo ships, loaded with supplies for the Empire's frontline forces, never stood a chance. Back at the Empire's capital, High Commander Gray faced the angry questions of the Imperial Council. The massive chamber, with its towering crystal walls, had never seen such chaos. "How is this possible?" demanded one of the council members. "These humans are destroying our supply lines at will. Our sensors can't find them. Our shields can't stop them." Gray's voice was heavy with exhaustion. "The humans, they don't fight like any enemy we faced before. They don't follow any rules of warfare. They strike from hiding. They target our supply ships. They fight to win," interrupted Admiral Blake, one of the younger Empire officers. "I've been studying their history. Do you know what guerrilla warfare is? Or asymmetric warfare? The humans perfected these tactics fighting themselves. They don't care about honor in battle. They care about victory." In deep space, Wilson's fleet was already moving to their next target. They had destroyed or captured over 50 Empire supply ships in the past 2 weeks. Each captured ship provided more intelligence about Empire technology, more codes, more tactical data. "Commander," Adams called out, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. The Empire is gathering a massive fleet. They're planning to attack Earth directly this time." Wilson nodded. They had expected this. The Empire always responded to raids by gathering huge fleets, trying to crush their enemies with sheer force. It was predictable. It was exactly what humanity wanted them to do. "Send word to all raiding fleets," she ordered. "Operation Thunderbolt Phase 2 begins now." Across Empire space, human stealth ships began targeting something new: communication relays. The Empire's mighty fleet would find itself blind and deaf, its complex network of faster-than-light communications shattered by an enemy they couldn't even see. On Earth, Admiral Smith reviewed the reports with satisfaction. The Empire's response was exactly what their psychologists had predicted. Their pride couldn't handle being hurt by primitives, so they would gather their forces for one massive attack. "Send the coded signal," he ordered. "All units prepare for Operation Broken Crown." The Empire fleet gathered near their capital, 10,000 ships strong. It was the largest fleet they had assembled in 1,000 years. High Commander Gray stood on his flagship's bridge, confident that this time, sheer numbers would overwhelm the human defenses. "All ships report ready," his aide announced. "We can begin the attack run to Earth." Gray gave the order, and 10,000 ships jumped to hyperspace at once. They were so confident in their numbers that they never stopped to ask one crucial question: why had the humans let them gather such a large fleet without interference? They were about to find out. And not one ship in that massive fleet would reach Earth. The great Imperial war room fell silent as the hologram showed their massive fleet jumping into the carefully prepared trap. 10,000 Empire ships emerged from hyperspace, ready for battle. Instead, they found themselves scattered across hundreds of different locations, their careful formation torn apart by human quantum interference technology. "Impossible," High Commander Gray shouted, his fist slamming into the command table. They found a way to disrupt our jump coordinates. Spread our ships across exactly where our hunter-killer drone swarms were waiting, Admiral Blake said quietly. The young Empire officer had been studying human warfare tactics for weeks now. They knew we would gather a massive fleet. They wanted us to do exactly this. On the tactical display, thousands of red dots representing Empire ships began to disappear. The humans had developed special eye-driven drones that could target the weak points of Empire ships. The mighty Imperial fleet, scattered and confused, was being torn apart piece by piece. "Sir," a junior officer reported, his voice shaking, "we're getting surrender signals from multiple ship captains. They're refusing to fight." Gray spun around in shock. In 10,000 years of Empire history, no ship captain had ever surrendered. It was unthinkable. It was against everything they believed in. But the humans had changed everything. Meanwhile, on the Earth Defense Force command ship Thunder, Admiral Smith watched the battle unfold. The Empire's mighty fleet was falling apart, not just physically, but mentally. Their rigid command structure couldn't handle being split up and forced to fight individually. "Send the message to all Empire frequencies," Smith ordered. "Offer safe passage to any ship that surrenders. Show them the footage from Mars again. Let them see what happens to those who keep fighting." The Empire's War Council erupted into chaos as more reports came in. Ship captains were surrendering by the hundreds. The humans weren't just defeating them. They were breaking their will to fight. "You're all cowards," Gray screamed at his officers. 10,000 years of Empire tradition, and you want to surrender to primitives." Admiral Blake stood up slowly. "Commander, I've been reading human military history. Do you know what happened to military leaders who refused to adapt? Who sent their soldiers to die for tradition rather than fight smart? They lost. They always lost. Tradition." Blake continued, pulling up images on the main display. "Look at human history. They went from fighting with swords to splitting atoms in less than 500 years. While we spent 10,000 years doing everything the same way, they spent their history learning, adapting, improving. In space, more Empire ships were powering down their weapons. The humans had included proof in their surrender offer, video footage showing how well they treated prisoners, how they respected those who chose to stop fighting. It was another weapon in their arsenal, one the Empire had never considered: mercy. On Earth, Smith received a priority message from Commander Wilson's stealth fleet. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy readings from the Empire's capital world. They're powering up some kind of super weapon." Smith nodded calmly. They had expected this too. The Empire always had some kind of ultimate weapon, something they thought would save them at the last minute. But humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this war. They had plans for everything. "Initiate Operation Glasshouse," he ordered. "Show them why we hid our best weapons until now." As the Empire prepared to unveil their super weapon, they never noticed the small, stealthy devices that human agents had planted on their capital world years ago. They never realized that even their most closely guarded secrets had been compromised long before the war began. The Empire was about to learn that while they had ruled the galaxy, humanity had prepared to fight for it. The Empire's super weapon powered up, its massive energy readings lighting up every sensor in the system. On their capital world, High Commander Gray watched with desperate hope. The planet killer cannon had never failed before. It would show these humans the true power of the Empire. But Admiral Smith just smiled as he watched from Earth's command center. "Start the countdown," he ordered. "Let them charge their weapon completely. We want them to see this." The massive cannon's barrel began to glow. Energy readings went off the scale. Every Empire scientist had declared this weapon unstoppable. No shield could block it. No ship could survive it. "Sir," Lieutenant Rogers reported, "Empire weapon at full power. They're targeting Earth." "Now," Smith said quietly. Across the Empire's capital world, thousands of tiny devices activated at once. They had been hidden there for years by human stealth ships, waiting for this moment. Each one was smaller than a coin, containing humanity's most advanced technology, the nanoswarm. Gray's triumph turned to horror as every screen in the command center went dark. The planet killer cannon's glow faded. Every power system on the capital world began to shut down. "What's happening?" he demanded. Admiral Blake, who had been studying human tactics, answered with fear in his voice. "They're in our systems. They're everywhere. The humans. They seeded our world with nanomachines years ago. They're taking control of everything." On Earth, Smith watched as the nanites did their work. They weren't just shutting down the Empire's weapons. They were copying all their data, learning their secrets, and sending everything back to Earth. "Launch the AI fleet," he ordered. "Show them what we can really do." From hidden bases across the solar system, a new kind of ship emerged. They had no crews, no life support systems, just pure combat machines guided by Earth's most advanced artificial intelligence. They were ugly, practical vessels built for one purpose: war. The remaining Empire ships faced this new horror with growing panic. The AI ships moved in ways no living pilot could match, pulling maneuvers that would kill any organic crew. They fought faster, reacted quicker, and showed no fear. "All Empire forces," Smith's message broadcast across space. "You've seen only a fraction of our strength. Your capital world is under our control. Your superweapon belongs to us now. Surrender and live." In the Empire's command center, now running on emergency power, Gray watched his civilization's greatest achievements being turned against them. The humans hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared to win it completely. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do all this?" Blake looked at the emergency reports coming in. They were never primitive. They just let us think they were. Every time we scanned Earth, we saw what they wanted us to see. They were planning this for decades. On the front lines, Commander Wilson's stealth fleet watched as Empire ships began surrendering in massive numbers. The sight of their capital world going dark, their greatest weapon turned off like a light switch, had broken their last hope of victory. "Send the final message," Smith ordered from Earth. "Show them the Proxima fleet." In the Proxima Centauri system, humanity's true fleet revealed itself. 10,000 ships, each more advanced than anything the Empire had, powered up their engines. This was the real Earth Defense Force, hidden away and waiting while older ships fought the initial battles. The Empire's remaining leaders watched in despair as the massive human fleet moved toward their worlds. They had thought Earth was showing them everything in this war. They had been wrong. They were about to learn why humans had a saying: "Never start a fight, but always finish it." The Empire's Grand Council chamber had never looked so dim. With their capital world's powers still under human control, emergency lights cast long shadows across the worried faces of the Empire's highest leaders. They had gathered to face a truth none of them wanted to admit. They were losing the war. High Commander Gray stood before them, his once proud uniform now wrinkled from days without rest. "The humans have taken control of 30 major systems. Their AI ships are unstoppable. Their stealth technology makes our defenses useless. We must." A loud explosion interrupted him. Alarms began blaring throughout the Capitol building. On the emergency screens, security cameras showed Empire troops fighting each other in the corridors. "Sir," a young officer burst into the chamber. "Our own soldiers. They're turning against us. The humans. They've been here all along." Admiral Blake stepped forward, drawing his weapon. The young officer who had studied human tactics now revealed his true identity. "For 3 years, I've been sending reports to Earth Command. You never even suspected. You never thought humans could look exactly like you." The council members stared in horror. Their best infiltration technology couldn't even disguise small changes in appearance. But the humans had somehow perfected it years ago. On Earth, Admiral Smith watched through Blake's hidden cameras as the Empire's leadership faced their final crisis. "Send in the extraction teams," he ordered. "It's time to end this." Across Empire space, carefully hidden human agents revealed themselves. They had infiltrated every level of Empire society, learning their weaknesses, gaining their trust, and waiting for this moment. Commander Wilson's stealth fleet appeared in orbit above the capital world, their weapons trained on key military targets. This is your final warning. Her message broadcast to all frequencies. Your leadership has failed you. Your defenses are compromised. Your own soldiers are turning against you. In the council chamber, Blake kept his weapon trained on Gray. You still don't understand, do you? We gave you every chance to avoid this. We warned you from the very beginning. Gray's face showed his complete defeat. Why? Why did you infiltrate us years before we even found Earth? How did you know? Blake smiled sadly. Because that's what we would have done if we were planning to conquer someone. So we assumed everyone else would try the same with us. The difference is, we did it better. On countless Empire worlds, military commanders watched their carefully built defenses shut down, disabled by hidden codes and secret agents. The mighty Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, was being taken apart from the inside. Sir, Lieutenant Rogers reported to Smith, we're receiving surrender signals from 80% of Empire worlds. Their fleet commanders are standing down. Smith nodded. The Empire's rigid structure was its greatest weakness. Once the leadership was broken, the rest would follow. Humanity had studied this pattern in their own history many times. In the council chamber, Blake received the coded signal he had waited years to hear. Your choice is simple, he told the Empire leaders. Surrender now, and we help you rebuild under a new system. Refuse, and we show you weapons that make the nanoswarms look primitive. Gray looked around the chamber, seeing the fear in every face. You planned this all along. Every step, even letting us find Earth when we did, was exactly when we wanted you to find us. Blake finished. We were ready. We had been ready for years. All you had to do was listen when we warned you. Across the galaxy, the Empire's mighty fleets powered down their weapons. Their leaders surrendered one by one. The war was ending not with a final massive battle, but with the quiet recognition that they had been defeated long before it began. Humanity had already won the war before the first shot was fired. They had just been waiting for the Empire to realize it. 1 month after the Empire's surrender, the Great Hall of Earth's United Defense Command hosted an historic meeting. Admiral Smith stood before representatives from both Earth and the former Empire, his aged face showing both weariness and satisfaction. The war is over, he announced to the gathered crowd. Today, we begin a new chapter in galactic history. In the audience, High Commander Gray sat with other former Empire leaders, their once proud uniforms replaced by simple civilian clothes. They watched as Blake, now revealed as Commander Robert Blake of Earth Intelligence, took the stage. You're wondering why we're being so generous in victory, Blake said, addressing his former Empire colleagues. No occupation forces, no crushing reparations, no humiliation of the defeated. This too was part of our plan. The hall's massive screens lit up, showing images that made the Empire representatives gasp. Earth's hidden weapons, the ones they had never used. Planet-cracking bombs that could shatter worlds. Dimensional rifts that could swallow entire fleets. Technology that made their nanoswarms look like children's toys. We could have used these, Smith continued. We could have conquered every Empire world in days. But that was never our goal. We didn't want to destroy you. We wanted to change you. Gray stood up slowly. All this time, you had weapons that could have ended us instantly. Why fight the way you did? Blake smiled. Because we learned from our own history. Real change doesn't come from crushing your enemy. It comes from showing them a better way. The screens change, showing new images. Empire and Earth ships working together to rebuild damaged worlds. Joint scientific projects combining the best of both civilizations' technology. Schools where Empire children learned alongside human children. Your empire lasted 10,000 years because you stopped changing, stopped adapting, Smith explained. You thought you had reached perfection. But humanity's greatest strength is that we never stop learning, never stop improving. In orbit above Earth, Commander Wilson watched from her ship as the first joint Earth-Empire defense fleet conducted training exercises. The Empire ships were learning human tactics, while human ships benefited from Empire technology. We spent 50 years preparing for war, Smith continued in the hall below. But we spent just as long preparing for peace. Every person we infiltrated into your society wasn't just there to help us win. They were there to help us rebuild. The audience watched in amazement as more secrets were revealed. Humans had hidden backup copies of Empire art and culture, protecting them from destruction during the war. They had preserved technologies, histories, and knowledge that could have been lost in a more destructive conflict. Today, Smith announced, we signed the Terra Imperial Accord. Not a surrender document, but a partnership agreement. Together, we'll build something better than either of us could create alone. Gray walked to the stage, standing beside Smith. We thought we were perfect, he admitted to his people. We thought we had nothing left to learn. The humans proved us wrong not just through force of arms, but through wisdom we have forgotten. The hall erupted in applause as leaders from both civilizations signed the historic document. A new age was beginning, one that combined humanity's drive to improve with the Empire's stability and experience. Years later, students at the new Galactic Academy would study the Terran War. They learned not just about the battles and strategies, but about the deeper lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. True strength comes not from power, but from the wisdom to know how to use it. And in their textbooks, they always began with the same quote, we warned them to run, but what we really wanted was for them to learn. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had planned all along.